would like to invite Dr. Siham El Kafafi from New Zealand. Dr. Siham, have you connected, Dr. Siham?
Hi, yes, I am connected. I'm here.
Okay, it's such a pleasure to connect with you. So Dr. Siham is the founder of Arrow Research Consultancy based out of New Zealand. She's an educator, a businesswoman, and an entrepreneur. So we're all waiting to hear you, Dr. Siham. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is it possible to share my screen?
Definitely.
Because
definitely.
I can see
I'll just request Mr. Anil Sharma. I think, can you? Mr. Anil Sharma.
Yeah, his presentation is still on.
Yeah. I'll just request him. I think he's not there. I request the host.
No. I guess I need to, because he needs to move his. You'll be able to. Yeah.
It's done.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you here from New Zealand, as you mentioned, Aotearoa, as we call it in Maori, which means the land of the long white cloud. And thank you very much for your consideration for my time. I think right now it's exactly 12:36 after midnight. So we already started on our Sunday. I would like please to share with you my presentation, as you can see. And yes, I am going to talk about our beautiful planet. Okay. So the title of my presentation is that the impact of climate change and global warming on businesses, a bird's eye view. The content, I will just go through the objectives, then what is climate change, what's global warming, the impact of climate change on businesses, what are the risks, and how are we gonna mitigate them? Then the conclusion. So as we all know that we keep on interchanging and using those terms, climate change, global warming, but they do have differences in their meanings, exactly like using also the terms weather and climate. So sometimes that creates a little bit of confusion when we're referring to them. So the aim of my presentation today is to discuss with you the impact of climate change on businesses and provide some strategies that already some of the businesses started already taking steps toward them in order to mitigate those risks. So let's go through a few definitions. Climate change, it's actually referring to long-term shifts in the temperature and weather patterns. And these shifts may be natural, but since the 18,000s, the human activities, as we all know, has actually been the main driver for those climate changes. And this is due to a burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, which all the countries all over the globe are doing. And this is producing the heat-trapped gases. So what is global warming? It's the long-term heating of Earth's surface that is observed since the pre-industrial period, which is between the 1850s and the 1900s. So it is due to human activities again, and it's primarily the fossil fuel burning, which increase the heat, trapping the greenhouse gas levels in the Earth's atmosphere. So this term is not interchangeable with the term climate change. Let us look at this figure. As you can see, it demonstrates actually the change in the global temperature relatively between the 1951 to the 1980s. And you are going to find out that as we move to the year 2020, the peak or the height of these changes and the temperature happened exactly between 2016 and 2020. So if we're going to look here in New Zealand, where we are living, there is a great impact of the climate change on us here. It's impacting us a lot. There has been an increase of it across the time, and this is demonstrated. We're going through a lot of floods, storms, and droughts and fires, which is becoming more frequent. We're having also a lot of earthquakes, and this is actually a very, very serious issue that we have to be careful with in relation to everything that we're dealing with here in the country. So how are we going to link that? What is the impact of climate change to businesses? If we're going to look at the reports that has been written by the United Nations International Labour Organization, they actually reported that there is 80 million jobs that are at risk due to the rising temperature and predictions that is actually happening and underway, which is impacting on the productivity and the whole environment, the working environment of everybody. So all industries are actually affected. They are threatened by this climate change, whether directly or indirectly. And we hear this in different countries, different levels and in different stages, but it's impacting all of us all over the globe. So it's been estimated that if we are going to look at the New Zealand economy as an example, we have been impacted by around approximately 140 million. And this was due to the floods, the droughts that we have been exposed to. And of course, this is demonstrated in how the insurance companies are actually changing their policies, changing the rules, because they are losing a lot of money due to all these disasters resulting from climate change. So what are the different risks? We can actually itemize the risks on businesses due to climate change on those three types of risks: physical risks, transitional risks, and liability risks. So if we're going to look at the first one, which is due to flooding, hurricanes, droughts, wildfire, these actually, its effect is due to the climate change, and it is creating havoc. It's creating a damage to people, to property, and also to transportation. So these events have been increasing exponentially due to climate change. And if we're going to look at the period between 2000 and 2015, the whole global population risk has been increasing between 20 and 24%. And also, if we are going to count it in the number of people, there is around 700 million people that are actually at the risk of being displaced as a result of drought by 2030, as been reported by the World Health Organization. So let us take a little bit look at some of the examples and this physical impact. So we're going to look, for example, at the floodings and the droughts. This is affecting crops. It's affecting livestock. And as I'm sure if you heard that here in New Zealand, it's been estimated for a while that for every one human being, we're having, for example, 5 sheep. So livestock here for farmers and for all of us is extremely important because it is also related to our economy, to our exports. So it is unhealthy, of course. If we're going to look at Australia, they are actually suffering also a lot of drought and a lot of fire. It has been estimated that there is a $1 billion loss for their farmers over the period of the past 20 years. If we're going to look at the leisure industry, it has been also been impacted tremendously due to the climate change. If we're looking at the ski resorts, The weather is getting warmer. This is affecting tourism. It's affecting the money that's coming in the countries because of these changes in the temperatures, reducing the snowfalls, and this is impacting us here in New Zealand also. This example here is in the US. There is 50% shorter season. They're estimated by 2050. Also, if we are going to look at the US and Turkey and Australia, also they are suffering in relation to tourism because of wildfires. Also, the hiking is being unsafe. All these physical risks that's been happening has been also highlighted exponentially when COVID hit all of us. And that global risk has impacted all of us all over the world. The second type of risk is the transitional risk. And that type of risk is actually due to policies and laws and regulations that has been changed. It's costing businesses a lot. It's also impacted on them due also to the changes of technologies, the different and the changes of consumer trends, and also impacting on their reputation and how the society views them and how they look at them. So if we're going to look, for example, at the energy industry, and that sector is actually impacted by this transitional risk because there is a push there for a greener energy resources. The government is trying to make this shift in order to produce zero carbon emissions for everybody. So with the contributions, of course, of the COVID and the pandemic, all this has been increasing exponentially. There is an increase in the prices, which is affecting businesses and their practices. Are they socially responsible? Are they ethical in their practices? We can look also at the sector. The mining industry sector has also been affected financially by these risks because they are also trying to introduce the carbon pricing. There is also a negative effect if the businesses are actually not dealing with it in the proper way, not having the right policies, or not applying those policies. It is going to harm actually their reputations. The third risk is the liability risk. And this is the risk when the businesses fail to mitigate or fail to adapt or fail to disclose their lack of compliance, for example, due to those changes in the legal and regulatory expectations. So this has been increasing all over worldwide, all over the globe, and it is actually evolving, and the end result is legal disputes and all the changes that's happening among the public and their perceptions for those organizations. So it's being actually driven by a greater focus from regulators and investors who want to ensure that the businesses are providing the necessary disclosures and to comply with an ever-evolving regulatory landscape. So companies that are polluting are obviously exposed to potential litigations. Also, the companies that fail to consider looking at the future. So we need the businesses to be proactive, not reactive. So if they're just going to wait until the disaster happens, that is not in their favor. They need to be actually proactive. So for example, structural engineers or property developers, if they fail to consider any increased intensity in the rainfall and that impacts on the drainage system, it's affecting the people, the users, it's affecting the society, and it's affecting, of course, their reputation. So how to respond to those risks, the 3 risks that we talked about. There are lots of methodologies that are well established. There are several management approaches that would help businesses in order to combat these climate changing risks. So they can take 3 steps. First of all, identification is extremely important. This is the first one. Need to identify what is the strategic risks. Then you start developing a granular view of the risks that are involved. And then accordingly, you develop a mitigation strategy that fits with these specific risks. So it's also required that there should be a significant shift. It's an ideological shift, a shift in the culture, a shift in the way of thinking, a shift on the way companies are actually managing and approaching these changes that's happening, their impact on their business, and how are they going to adopt it. So they should also consider that when they are looking at climate change risks, they should look at it that this is their core business. It's not an add-on. So if it is the core of their business, then it will be incorporated in their strategies in order to mitigate it successfully. Also, when they are looking at the effects of climate change, they should actually look at the analysis that it has to be done regularly and consistently at specific intervals, not once and stop. So these steps, if they are being taken, this will lead to investigating also new technologies that could assist the industries to move forward. So some of the examples of worldwide businesses that actually were proactive, they started mitigating those risks. If we are looking at, for example, BP, they had a 9 gigawatt of solar energy projects in the US. Exxon, they have announced that they are going to invest $3 billion in carbon capture technology. If we're looking at the ski resorts in Switzerland, they are developing summer tourist model to draw crowds. There are resorts also that are embracing new technologies of cloud seeding and wind power machines, and is also helping in zero temperatures. Here in New Zealand, we passed a zero carbon amendment to the Climate Change Responses Act in 2019 to reach a net zero by 2050. And this is, of course, excluding the biogenic methane, which is from agriculture. So in conclusion, the effects of climate change are felt around the world across all industries. Taking steps to mitigate the impact on climate change is vital, but it also makes a good financial sense in the long run. So by taking actions now, the businesses can lower the risks that come from climate change and take advantages and opportunities for a greener future. And I'd like to quote Amr Rahman from the Global Head Climate Resilience Services, who mentioned that companies that identify and act on climate risks now will have a better chance to not only survive, but to thrive in a new net zero world. It's a win-win for everybody if we all collaborate with each other. So I just want to save the bees, plant trees, and swim in our seas. Thank you very much.
That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we are open to any questions. Anybody who would like to ask some questions. So I think the session has gone really, really well, and people have really got the topic. And one thing that I would really like to add is to support younger technologies and to support more and more people who are working in all these areas. There are too many incubation centers which are starting. They are basically to support the environment, to support businesses, and to bring about a lot of disruptive in the field of technology. So thank you so much, Dr. Siham, for actually taking your time out at this hour of the night and giving us a very good session. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you for the opportunity. I wish you a successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.